Hi, my name is Andrew McKenna, and this is my presentation on technology, the technology shift in education for my Module 5, AEP 800. So a basic summary of these articles. I thought the digital divide was very eye-opening. I guess I really never gave much thought about people having internet at home, having Wi-Fi. Even though I do work in a Title I school, good chunk of my kids already have cell phones, and they seem to be accessing things at home via at least their cell phones. So it was very interesting to see the number of people that really still didn't even have Wi-Fi at home, which can create a real issue, especially with the shift in students now using Chromebooks and different other things, iPads and stuff that they're taking home and going more paperless. So trying to access your homework at home if you have Wi-Fi is impossible. So basically learning stops at the door. So I thought that was very interesting and something that you really have to take into consideration as an administrator about how you would overcome obstacles if you're in an area or if you're, potentially dealing with students that don't have internet access at home. For one of the first things you need to do, though, I feel, is create a team. You need to have a team in order to make such a shift in your building and set a plan in place for the technology. Come up with ways, go ahead and problem solve. What are going to be the obstacles? How can we overcome those? What are best teaching strategies? Kids love technology, but what they love about it is they love to play on it. So how's the best way to go about teaching them how to effectively use the technology? And not only training for them, but then training for staff. How are you going to overcome that? How are you going to get the time for everyone to be properly trained? And also, I think it's important to research the best technology for elementary schools, since that's what I'm primarily in. What's best for kindergarten age, through fifth? That's a big gap. To me, it's even bigger than obviously like 6th through 8th or, 9th through 12th. I mean, you're talking about kindergarten babies and even preschool. What's better technology-wise for them to begin with versus my 5th grade group? So I thought it was really interesting because there were so many things listed that, you could potentially use and so many issues that could potentially happen. So do I feel that the digital divide can be resolved? I think to a point, eventually it's going to be mostly solved, but I'm not sure it's going to be completely solved. Hate to be a fence rider, but I really don't have a definitive answer on that. I feel that a school must have a plan in place. You have to have that vision, like the article said. It's really important to have an end goal and then make a plan based on that. Technology collaboration is going to improve. I think that the open resources will eventually improve. I think there's going to be a bigger availability for teachers. I know right now, personally, as a teacher, it's really frustrating. Sometimes getting online and trying to find different resources because one link will take you to another, which takes you to another, and I feel like waste an entire plan period just trying to find a certain thing, trying to get my hands on it, which is aggravating. We don't have enough time as is. I also feel like eventually, there are going to be more lines run for internet and cable companies and everything. And I think eventually that the technology, they will collaborate and be able to ping off each other. I'm not a technical person. That's what I have my husband for. And he is in the cable business. And I think that eventually, yes, that we will get to a place where in this country that pretty much almost everyone has some sort of access at some point to internet. What skill sets do you feel a 21st century student must acquire prior to graduation? I think first and foremost is going to be digital responsibility. Sadly, I think kids have gotten their hands on technology before being appropriately taught the skills that they need to interact on that technology. I think I go back to thinking of my own children and issues that have happened over the years with them. I mean, we move so fast from having instant access and everything's boom out there for everyone in the world to see that people didn't stop to think about what's being responsible. What does that look like? Kids don't realize that once they put something out there, it's out there forever. So I think it's really important to teach digital responsibility, which, touches on, safety and, all other things. How can I assure that, I'm not, upsetting someone else, or how do I protect myself from being upset by someone else via the internet and everything else? And also how to use technology for learning purposes. It's not all just fun. How do I use it as a tool to help me gain the knowledge that I need? Kids don't really know how to do that. How do they use it for problem solving? That's something they definitely are going to have to use. They're going to have to think of different tools and devices and how can they use those tools to help them problem solve or create something. And along with that, I also think kids need exposure to different types of technology. They have the VI. I mean, we have computers, obviously. Schools have had those. They have iPads. But there's so many other things now, 3D printers and different things that kids just kind of need overall exposure to and kind of what they can use those for. What's the impact of the global economy? What's that had on my personal use? For me, my biggest one is education. I have 6 children between my husband and I. He had 3 and I had 3. I worked full time. I tinkered with the idea for years to go back and just get my my bachelor's. And it wasn't until one of our schools here had a completely online program for education, because I couldn't take off and working full time and be like, oh, I need a day off to go observe in a classroom. I mean, who really can do that? Or even though we had to do that, I was fortunate enough to work in schools, but who has time to go for hours every evening to class? I didn't have the time. So education was huge. Being able to do my bachelor's and my master's online has been a godsend. Teaching resources. Oh my goodness. I mean, I am on every day finding different things that pop in my head that I think, oh man, this would be cool for the kids, but I don't physically have that available. So I'll get on and I'll find it. Of course, personally, you have social networking and then shopping. I'm not going to lie. I'm an online shopper. It's great. And I also find that I save a lot by being able to get online and check for best prices, deals, coupons, etc. It's been wonderful. What technology training do you still need to effectively integrate technology in your current position? I really feel that still need more information on effective technology for elementary students. What is best for them? Like I said before, being that it's, pre-K through 5th grade, I mean, that's a huge learning difference between the little bitties and between the 5th graders. Yes, I do believe that little ones can get on the computer and do stuff on the computer, but is that going to be the same type of technology as what my 5th graders are using? I don't believe that it is. I think that there are some other things that we could possibly use. iPads, different things, which most of these kids already know how to use, but how can they effectively use it for education? I think Chromebooks are amazing. I know personally my daughters have used them at their school when they're in middle school, and then they've moved on to Apple computers and stuff like that, MacBooks. So things like that, we would need more training on. I would personally even need more training on. I'm not familiar with going paperless. So what does that look like as far as posting homework and, grading assignments and online books and all of that for students? I think we need more training and also open resource training. I think there's got to be easier ways of even what I'm doing to find good resources, free resources online. And then, of course, cost. Need some training on cost. What does this cost? What do we have to work with cost-wise? What are some other ways we could potentially get the money to get these different items into our school? Our school district, USD 259, currently does have smart boards in every classroom, which is an amazing thing. It is very engaging for the students. They can actively participate. Of course, it all depends on the teacher. Is the teacher been trained? Do they know how to create certain smart board things? Some do, some don't. And I feel like I'm kind of in the middle on that. I have some training, but not as much as I'd like. We have increased the number of computers. Does every student have a computer currently to use all day long? No. Are we going to get there? Probably eventually. I know that there are lots of classrooms that have iPads and different things like that. And I know in middle school and even in high school that it depends on the teachers. They let them use smartphones for research or for interactive things like Kahoot and different other websites that they can sit there and answer questions on, and it's immediate feedback to the teacher. So I think we are moving definitely in that direction. What are the advantages of innovative practices in school? There's lots. It can cut cost on materials, such as, if we're using all free materials such as Engage New York, then that's a huge savings for the district, and not having to buy all of that. Also, if we're going more paperless, cost of, printer ink, toner, paper, etc., all those things, which also then saves on time. It does prepare students for 21st century jobs. These kids are not going to be in a position, I can't even think farming. I mean, everyone's using technology, so there's no job out there that they're really ever going to be able to escape any kind of technology. So it's preparing them effectively for life. And I think it eases differentiating. It can for your highers and your lowers. It can create engagement. You could also be able to do things easy on the computer, set it up for those students that need a little different practice or some reteaching. So it's got a lot of great advantages. There's also a lot of disadvantages. Cost, huge right there. Training, time for teacher training, effective teacher training, not just this 30-minute, hey, let's look at this real quick, and the teachers go, huh? True training for the teachers. And then even for the students, the teachers feeling comfortable enough to train the students in the technology. Socioeconomic, that's an issue. Obviously, a lot of people don't have Wi-Fi. They don't have internet access. So if you are a school where your students all have Chromebooks and they take that home, how do they, get past that? Tech support can be an issue. Teacher buy-in, older teachers maybe not so comfortable with it. And then, of course, online resources. They're kind of a pain to find. I have experienced cyberbullying with my own children, not in school though, as I'm a 4th grade teacher, but yeah, it's scary. And because they can change different things, it's hard to track who's doing it. You might have to get the police involved, and there are some repercussions, and it's a very frustrating thing to deal with. So I have experienced it, but only personally. So I think that the consequences of it need to be pretty harsh if it is found who's doing it. But at the same time, it's one of those things you have to teach the kids. It's all about learning, not to cyberbully, what to do if they're cyberbullied. And I think those are all manageable things. Thank you guys for watching. Here is my Works Cited page. Thanks. Bye.